Hey everybody, just wanted to take a few minutes to go over the homework assignments here in week 7. So when you click on the week 7 homework assignments tab in the week 7 module, the first item you're going to see is to read chapter 17. Chapter 17 is just a follow-up on this week's lesson on thesis statements and introductions, getting into, writing a full essay as opposed to single paragraphs. So it just helps reinforce that lesson. Use it as little or as much as you need to. The next item is, of course, the week 7 journal. For this week, I want you to think about different types of bosses or different types of coworkers. Not both. Choose one or the other. Types of bosses or types of coworkers. And what I mean by that is, let's look at coworkers, for example. I don't want you to talk about who you've worked with. You can use people as examples, perhaps, but this isn't about your personal job experience. This is about general categories, general types. So you might have the lazy coworker. What is that person like? You might have the brown-nosing coworker. What's that kind of person like? You might have the the super serious coworker, the one who takes their job so seriously. You might have the funny coworker. You might, however you want to classify them. What are different types of coworkers that we might experience on the job? Same thing with bosses, if you decide to go that route. You might have the too friendly boss, right? We might run into that kind of boss at a workplace. The kind who just wants to be everybody's friend but doesn't really do much. We might have the really strict boss. We might have the inappropriate boss. We might have the, the boss who, like a lazy boss. We could have a lazy boss too, just like we could have a lazy coworker. So think about it, and however you want to designate your categories is totally up to you. But think about either the different types of bosses that we might run into or the different types of coworkers we might run into. One or the other. So like 3 different types of bosses or 3 different types of coworkers. Whatever you decide to do, what your response should also include is a description of each type. Right? So if you're going to say, in the workplace you might run into the lazy coworker, how would we know it's the lazy coworker? What are they like? What kind of behaviors or attitudes do they exhibit that would clue us in that they're a lazy coworker, right? Try to go for, 8 to 10 minutes, but just try to give, examples of each type, right? And I'd shoot for at least 3 categories for whichever one you choose, bosses or coworkers. And try to have that in by Sunday night. The next item for homework is week 7 assignment 1. This is on thesis statements and introductions. So that's what we covered a good bit in this week's lessons. So you're going to do it in a Word document or Google Doc or PDF. You can create your own, but I will also have attached a file to the instructions that you can use as your template if you prefer to go that route. But for this assignment, we've got 3 parts. Part 1 is on choosing between effective and ineffective thesis statements. So you're going to see 5 pairs of thesis statements. In each pair, there is a really good, strong thesis statement, and the other one is not so strong. Your job is to either underline or highlight the one that you think is the strongest. Which one out of each pair is the most effective. Okay? Part 2, we're going to work on creating thesis statements, so a little bit of practice there. You can see that I've given you an example in a box in the instructions for part 2. So what you're going to have is you're going to be given a topic, and then you're going to be given 3 supporting ideas for that topic. Your goal is to use all of that information, the topic and the 3 supports, to create one single grammatically correct thesis statement. And if you look at the example, it shows you exactly how to do it. So the example, the topic is, you have won the lottery and can choose to travel anywhere in the world. Write about one place you would like to visit and explain why you'd like to travel there. Well, our person in the example wants to go to France. Their 3 supporting reasons for wanting to go to France are, I would travel to France because I love French food. Paris is one of the most beautiful cities in the world and I would like to see it. And 3, I would like to practice my French and become more fluent. So, we have our topic, we have our 3 supports. So we're going to extract the important information from all 4 of those items and create a thesis statement out of it. So for this example, the thesis statement would be, if I won the lottery and could travel anywhere in the world, that's the part from the topic, I would travel to France because I love French food, support 1, I want to see Paris, support 2, and I would like to become more fluent in French, support 3. So that's what your goal is going to be for the 2 items in part 2. So for the first one, your topic is education is important to have. Your 3 supports are, it could enable one to get a better paying job, it makes a person a more interesting individual, and it makes a person a more informed citizen. So your job is going to be to take that topic and those 3 supports and create one single grammatically correct thesis statement, just like the example did. And you're using exactly what is given to you. You are not coming up with your own ideas or having to, come up with your own responses to these topics. Just use exactly what is there. Use that topic, use those 3 supports. Okay? You're not having to think of anything on your own at this point. Just using what's in front of you to create that thesis statement. So you're going to do that for items 1 and 2. Part 3 is real brief. It's just 3 questions about introductory paragraphs. So question 1, what are the 3 things an introductory paragraph should accomplish? Type your answers in the spaces below. Number 2, in the spaces below, list 3 types of introductory attention-grabbing techniques discussed in the introductory paragraphs lesson. There were much more than 3, but I'm asking you to choose 3. So attention-grabbing, right? So attention-grabbing techniques, introductory techniques. The lesson went over multiple. You choose 3 and list them. And question 3, where does the thesis statement typically appear in the introductory paragraph? Underline your answer. Does it typically appear at the beginning, or like the first sentence of the intro? Does it typically appear in the middle of the intro? Or does it typically appear at the end as the last sentence of the intro? Right? So that's it for this assignment. I will say this, it's not terribly difficult, this assignment, but it's great practice. And this is a super important lesson because we are starting to learn about how to write a full essay as opposed to single paragraphs. And your final exam for this course is a 5-paragraph essay. The first paragraph of that essay will be an introductory paragraph that must have a thesis statement in it. So this lesson and this assignment is great practice to make sure that you are understanding what you're going to need to do for that final exam. Okay? All right. And the last item for this week is, of course, the Week 7 discussion. For this discussion, we are going to talk about procrastination. So, the discussion question is, what role does procrastination play in your life? What are some things that trigger you to procrastinate? What are some ways that you can manage these situations and overcome your urge to put things off? And if you are not typically a procrastinator, what are some tips you could share with us to help us overcome procrastination? Right? So either way, you should be able to respond to this prompt. Try to make it a small paragraph, 8 to 10 sentences. I'm sure we actually all have a lot to say about procrastination in one way or another. Okay. So try to have your first post up by Thursday night. And don't forget to respond to 2 classmates before the discussion closes Sunday night. If you have any questions about this week's homework or run into any technical difficulties, please let me know. Otherwise, you guys are free to go ahead and get